Why do I live in Saskatoon, you ask? Well, living in Saskatoon is like being part of a secret club with the world's most unpredictable weather. One day you are wearing shorts, the next you are shoveling snow. It's a thrilling roller coaster. But aside from the unpredictable weather, it's about being a part of something truly special. I've been lucky enough to immerse myself in this amazing community, to be part of something bigger than myself. As a leader in the community, I have seen the heartwarming way our city rallies together, whether it's a small act of kindness such as helping a neighbor shovel their driveway or standing firm against bigger issues such as hate, racism, injustice in society, Islamophobia. This beautiful city and its people never cease to amaze me and bring me enormous pride in calling myself a tiny part of it. In Saskatoon, we don't just live here, we thrive here because this community is the beating heart of why I call this place home. In Saskatoon, community is not just a word, it's a way of life.
Oh, the words from Ali Ahmed in Saskatoon, why he chooses to live in Saskatchewan. Now, Nicole, you threw out this question on Facebook too, right? So what do people say there?
There were some people who came for academia. Some love the sky. Some are here because their family is here and they found it more affordable to buy a home. Brandy wrote, "It's my homeland where my ancestors resided. It's blood memory. I've tried to leave a few times, but I always came back. I crave the silent, cold, dark winters, the smell of the brisk, cool air, the submarine water holes in the skies. I'm a prairie girl, and it's in our blood." And Sarah, who just moved here from Sweden, wrote, "It's like being at a party where everyone knows it becomes what you make of it. No, it's like being in the kitchen at that party."
I love that.
I love that too. And it is really interesting talking to people who are fresh, with fresh eyes and fresh perspectives, because I know talking to Sarah, who is, only been here a few months, that sense of people really creating a scene or like making the community that they want to live in is really, she's already joined a choir, a local women's choir, and has her kids involved in some like nature clubs. And she just found that community that she was looking for quickly. And I think that's really what I hear from a lot of people.
Mm-hmm, me too.
Yeah. And Jen wrote, "Prairie culture, not too distant connection to land, canning, gardening, farming, resourcefulness. We're able to face the elements, nature, weather." And I would say there's a point of pride in that as well. Mm-hmm. The southern grasslands, the northern shield, canoeing, wilderness, the sunshine. The sunshine is huge for people.
Yes.
Especially if they've come from the West Coast.
Yeah.
The winter, Saskatoon berries, thunderstorms, the aurora. I'm part of that Saskatchewan Aurora Facebook group, and last night it was just going off, or this week it's been going off because, people are looking at the skies and seeing this beauty. And so many people in that part of that Facebook group are really new to Canada. Like they're coming from the Philippines, they're coming from different countries, and they've just been here less than a year and are just like excited to see Lady Aurora. Yeah. And the other thing people talk about is that humility and self-deprecation. So I think that's...
Oh, yeah, that's such a Saskatchewan thing.
It is a Saskatchewan thing. We're not boastful about the place. Like, we know. Yeah. We know. We live here. Know. We get it.
Yeah.
And I know that you spoke to other folks, too, and we got another voice note. So tell us a little bit about Marina.
Yes, so Marina lives in Saskatoon. She has no extended family here, so she's someone who chose Saskatoon, came here, and it hasn't been easy for her not having family, but she chooses to stay.
Why do I live in Saskatchewan? The first reason why we moved here was the ease of integration. When my family moved here 7.5 years ago, we had one friend in the entire country who just happened to live in Saskatchewan. That's why we took the chance and came here. I have remained because I find Saskatchewan as a province to be very family friendly. Integration is reasonably easier compared to the bigger provinces. The cost of living and the ease of integration is reasonable compared to the bigger provinces. I also find that the job market is not as fierce as it is in other places as well. I have visited a number of other provinces and I find that the people in Saskatchewan are more friendly than I have encountered elsewhere. Other than the harsh temperatures and how difficult international travel is just because we're far away from everything, other than that, I have really enjoyed life in Saskatchewan and I like my life here.
Well, that's Marina in Saskatoon. And I also like my life here. I know a lot of people do. So you can record a voice note on your phone today and send it along to us at bluesky@cbc.ca, or you can call right now, 1-800-716-2221.
Hey, Leisha, why do you live here?
It's all the reasons that we've listed already from all these wonderful folks. It's the quiet, subtle beauty of the prairies. It is very much the cost of living. Every time we go somewhere, we think, could we live here? And no, can't really afford it, to be honest. And so that brings us back to Saskatchewan time and time again. And I do think that I get to do all of these wonderful, adventurous things that I think I was really longing to do when I was younger. You know, the idea of climbing mountains and, seeing the ocean, all those like really wonderful things. And then I thought, well, no, I can find adventure in Saskatchewan. And so, paddleboarding on the river in Saskatoon is something that I love to do in the summer, cross-country skiing in the winter. I mean, I can do all those things and I get to be close to my family. So that's why I live here. Now, why do you live here, Nicole?
A lot of those similar reasons. I'm going to go back to something someone else wrote on my Facebook wall. Martha wrote, in addition to family, it's because every time we live somewhere else, I think about all the work that needs to happen here at home to build a better world. And we need to be part of doing that work.
Oh, that's an interesting reason.
It is, right? It's like a responsibility to place.
Yeah.
I think, you're not just here to reap the benefits. You're here because you're part of doing the work as well. And I think that's part of it for me. I'm here because I have a great job that I love. I find it meaningful. I really appreciate our CBC listeners and that community that we've created together. I have, found a really great community here in Regina. So, I have 4 kids. It's, maybe it wouldn't be ideal for downtown Toronto. It's been a good place for them to live so far, and they're being raised in a community full of people who are all looking out for them. Because for me, it's like so much about, it can't be just about me and my husband doing this on our own. It couldn't work.
Yeah.
We need these other people in our lives. I grew up in Saskatchewan and have deep ties here. And first to shout out to people in Glenavon and Estevan. And I love that there is this humbleness. And, we're keenly aware of the problems that exist here, but we're committed to improving things. I think that there's also this thing that Saskatchewan people have where we can appreciate beauty.
Yes.
I mean, it's so easy to appreciate beauty when you're in an old growth forest or you're walking down an ocean. You're like, yes, beauty is hitting me in the face. Right? But I think like when those winter mornings when you have an old house and there's the frost on the windows and you're just like notice that beauty, where you're just able to see the sunset at 5:30 when you're walking home, being able to look up at the sky and just like see those hues of pink and orange and appreciate that you do live in a beautiful place.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there are probably more reasons out there. And so, Nicole, thanks for helping us get started. So good to talk to you today.
So good to have you here on the show, Leisha. Really excited for all that we're going to do together. And I'm excited to get back on the other side of the glass and taking those calls.
Yes.
So ring those phones.
Ring those phones, Nicole. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That is Nicole Huck, producer of Blue Sky, and I'm Leisha Grabinski, your host. You can call us now and tell us why you live in Saskatchewan. Did you choose it, or did it choose you? You can call 1-800-716-2221 or email bluesky@cbc.ca. That's what Arthi did. Arthi writes, I live in Saskatoon, and why do I live in Saskatoon? A decade ago, our family relocated from St. John's, Newfoundland, with the initial allure of Saskatoon being Canada's sunniest city. However, as time passed, we discovered a deeper connection to the city's charm. Its breathtaking living skies, the tranquility of the South Saskatchewan River, the beautiful Meewasin Trail, which lights up in colors during fall, and the warmth of a tight-knit community. In retrospect, choosing Saskatoon has proven to be the right decision. The journey of bringing up our children has been significantly enriched by outstanding schools, dedicated teachers, and welcoming libraries, fostering an environment where our children have blossomed into wonderful individuals. Our heartfelt appreciation goes out to Saskatoon. And my appreciation goes out to you, Arthi. Thank you for writing. Tom in Pontex has something to share with us today. Hello to you, Tom.
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, one of the things I really appreciate about this province is the diversity of landscapes, because the southern is semi-desert and the north is the Canadian Shield, which is like Quebec, Ontario, and basically the east, and also to some extent BC. One thing I think we're fortunate about, though, is that if we have forest fires, they're nothing like BC has. And as far as floods are concerned, that's almost non-existent, at least not in the area that I live in. And, of course, the sunrises and sunsets are probably the nicest in all of Canada. And I've traveled the country from east coast to west coast and north to south, and I'd say that Saskatchewan has the best sunrises, sunsets, and skies.
I don't think anyone would argue with you on that one, Tom. I agree. So good to talk to you today. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Donna also sent us a note. Donna writes, I moved from Saskatoon to Toronto many years ago, and I came back when my mother was ill. My adult daughter came to visit, and her main question was, why are these strangers talking to me? They don't do that in Toronto. Donna, thank you so much. We know that many people live in Saskatchewan because of family. Perhaps they were born here or they have family around to help out with life. But Raul Ortega and his wife, Ileana, were very intentional about choosing Saskatchewan. In fact, when the couple decided they wanted to leave Mexico and start a new life in Canada, they put together a very elaborate Excel spreadsheet, plugging in all sorts of information. And when the numbers all came back, well, guess which city topped their list? Raul, hello.
Hi, hello, good afternoon, everyone.
I'm dying to hear the answer, but first, tell us about this spreadsheet. What kinds of things were you plugging in there when you were trying to figure out where to live?
It's a really fun story, actually. And yeah, we that spreadsheet, it took us almost a year in order to take the final decision. We compare between 15 different cities. We compare price of living, job opportunities, safety, crime rates. Even I remember that we take a groceries list, and we put that grocery list on the website of Walmart. So something that we did, we changed the zip code for comparing the prices of groceries for every city.
Wow, and did it vary quite a bit?
Yes. For example, if we compare, well, back then we made the list in 2019, I think. Thunder Bay, if you compare it with Regina, it was almost twice for the same groceries list.
Wow.
It was insane, for sure.
So was that a bit of foreshadowing? Regina with the cheapest Walmart groceries, is that where you ended up?
It was almost the cheapest one. I don't remember the exact in that particular section, but yes, overall, Regina was a winner by much, for sure.
And tell me about prior to, or as you were making that Excel spreadsheet, why did you decide you wanted to leave Mexico?
Where we used to live in a city that is called Chihuahua, like the dog, and Chihuahua is a border with Texas. So living in the Mexican border with the U.S., there is a lot of challenges there in terms of safety, in terms of culture. So I'm the proudly father of a 10-year-old daughter. Sophia is 10. So we want for her a better place to grow, for sure. Mm. And I believe that we make the correct choice. Regina and the community has been really generous with us. They have welcomed us in a so warm way, and we are really happy to be here, for sure.
You know, so many people are looking to leave their home countries to find a new home. Often it's they want to come to Canada. So what reasons would you give them to come to Regina?
I believe the people in Regina, it's amazing. All the people, it's amazing. I mean, we have been very comfortable. The culture is great. We have friends that live in big cities like Calgary, Toronto, and so, and they face different challenges than us. They don't feel supported for the community, and we are. We have found protection in the community, people who understand us, people who is friendly, and the people, I believe, is the main reason for living here in Saskatchewan.
Raul, I want to share a voice note that we got from Alex. She now lives in Saskatoon, and she connected with us to tell us why she lives here. So let's take a listen to Alex's reasons.
Hi, I'm Alex. I am from Guatemala but moved here from Mexico where we lived with my family for the past 4 years. We live in Saskatoon because when we were researching places to live in Canada, we found that Saskatoon was a very affordable place, but mainly because we have a friend that lives here and she sent us this list that had the best places in the world to raise a child, and Saskatoon was pretty high on that list. So that's why we chose here at first, but then we came here and we fell in love with it. It's beautiful. The river, the skies, the landscape, also the people. The people's really nice. There's a big sense of community. So that's why we live here.
Raul, Alex's story kind of sounds like yours a bit, doesn't it? Raul?
Yeah, I agree 100% with her for sure.
Very similar, hey?
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting hearing Alex talk about seeing a list, right? And Saskatoon's near the top. Regina, you had your own spreadsheet. Is it what you imagined? Were you starting to picture things by the data you were entering into that spreadsheet? And then did the city end up matching it?
Yes, for sure. The people and the city, for sure.
Don't go anywhere, Raul. We are going to check in with David Shield for some of the news stories that he's working on right now. And I want to hear more about your story, and we're going to put the call out to listeners, okay? So stay put, Raul. Raul, I do want to ask you about some of the tough stuff that may come with moving to a place like Regina. I mean, the climate is an obvious one that's just so different from your life in Mexico. But some of the other things, what was it like settling into life in Saskatchewan?
It was pretty easy for sure. However, the only thing that we didn't consider it was the weather. That was a surprise for sure. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the only thing that we didn't consider, but it's manageable.
So
It's manageable at the end of the day.
what helped you get through it? Because you have managed to survive a couple of winters, and so what got you through?
No, uh, if you have good clothes, I mean, there is no bad weather with good clothes for sure.
Yeah.
And we are still in the in love stage of the snow, but because in Mexico we only have snow maybe 1 or 2 days per year, so here it's very shocking to see those huge amounts of snow and everything white and shiny, and we still believe that it's beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Maybe in a few years we will change our minds, but today we believe that it's beautiful.
What was it like finding a job?
At the beginning, I came here as a student first, so I was having just a part-time job, but I don't believe that that was an issue. I believe that in Saskatchewan there's a lot of job opportunities. Me and my wife, I believe it was really fast joining to the market for sure.
And what about your daughter? How was she adjusted to life in Regina?
We were really concerned. We were really concerned, but at the end of the day, she finally adapted. She has way more better English than ours, so it's pretty cool. But yes, at the beginning, she was afraid and she was worried for sure, right? But her school and the teachers and the classmates were really trying to feel her welcome, and they made it, and I'm really thankful for that.
Raul, I want to share another email, and I'm going to share our phone number again so people can share their reasons for living in Saskatchewan. So the number to dial is 1-800-716-2221, or you can email bluesky@cbc.ca. Karen sent an email. Karen says, I've lived in Saskatchewan almost all my life and 50 years in the same place. The Tri-Community area, which includes Larange, Arange, Lac Larange Indian Band. When I look out my kitchen window yesterday as I poured my morning coffee and saw the most beautiful sunrise. I've done some traveling in the past 10 years now, and I have seen some beautiful places. But when I come home, I am always struck by how beautiful my own piece of the world is here on the shores of Lac Larange. Beautiful email, Karen. Thank you. Raul, how do our sunsets compare, our sunrises and sunsets compared to other parts of the world? Are you with Karen on that one?
Yes, I am in. But however, I have to say that the Northern Lights, that was amazing. The first time that we saw a Northern Light, we went to a little place called Fairy Hills, like 20 minutes on the way to Saskatoon. And yeah, the first time that we saw a Northern Light, it was shocking for sure.
Have you managed to convince any of your family or friends from Mexico to move here?
My sister-in-law, she's moving from Mexico to Murcia on December, so
To
we're very happy
Moose
about that.
Jaw.
Right? They were here last Christmas, and we make them like a tour within the city. We went to Regina, Saskatoon, and to Murcia, and she fell in love with the city, so she's coming.
Oh, wonderful. And what would you say is the biggest selling feature? Now, whether you're selling just Moose Jaw or the entire province of Saskatchewan, what would you say is our biggest selling feature?
The people. The people is amazing. The community is amazing, for sure. The people is so friendly, and the community gives you the welcome in a very warm way. That I don't think that I have seen that in other places of the world, for sure.
Raul, it's been wonderful talking to you. Enjoy your time in Regina. We're glad you're here. It's nice to have you as a neighbor.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Take
Thank you.
care. Bye-bye. That is Raul Ortega, originally from Mexico, and after thoughtful consideration, chose Saskatchewan as the place where his family wanted to make their life in Canada. I'm Leisha Grabinski. You are listening to Blue Sky. We are asking you today, why do you live here? Did you make an intentional choice to move to Saskatchewan? You can call 1-800-716-2221 or email bluesky@cbc.ca. Now, I thought we could maybe hear another one of our voice memos. We got one from Trevor. It's kind of like Dear Diary, but instead it's Dear Blue Sky. So let's take a listen.
Hi, I'm Trevor Boytink, and I live in Saskatoon. Why do I live here? Well, 5 years ago, I really needed a fresh start. And as a Alberta native, I expected coming back to the prairies was going to be the answer. Surprisingly, the job I found was here in Saskatoon. Never having visited, I really didn't know anything about the city. And what I found was pretty fantastic. Great food, great beer, awesome art scene, fantastic people, some really great new relationships, and now it really just feels like home.
Well, you can send us a voice note too if you want. You can hit record on the voice memo app on your phone, email it to bluesky@cbc.ca, or you can just type it out. That's what John did. John writes, there are so many good reasons why so many of us would be nowhere else. Right now, I'm looking out over the lake, seeing, hearing wind, waves, ice, sunshine, geese flying by my window. During summers, I live up in our glorious boreal forest in my trailer with other like-minded NOFS. That stands for the Narrows Old Fart Society. Winters here, I spend a lot of time in my heated shop building restoring old cars. Wherever I have lived in our province, I have been privileged to have great neighbors too. I've spent time in Mexico and traveled somewhat and find these trips fun and interesting. I have never found, though, the warmth, feelings of home that so many of us enjoy as Saskatchewanians. John, thanks for your email. Ken writes something similar. I love the sunrises, the sunsets, and nothing beats watching the wind breathe life into a field of grain. Looking out over a yellow sea of canola or beautiful purple flax can take your breath away. After 66 years of enjoying the view, my spine feels crushed whenever I visit places with no wide open spaces. We'd love to hear from you today. Why do you live here? You can email bluesky@cbc.ca or you can call 1-800-716-2221. Now, Chris in Saskatoon writes, living in Saskatchewan has become a challenge for various reasons. The provincial government's disconnect from the public, good, and scientific principles is disheartening, contributing to our sense of alienation. The seeming prevalence of a regressive mindset marked by selfishness and hostility among the general public further erodes the feeling of belonging. The alarming rise in crime rates adds to the concerns, while healthcare struggles and severe cuts to education compound the challenges. The once vibrant political discourse has taken a turn for the worse, commonly vitriolic and tribalistic. Despite familial ties, the desire to thrive in an environment that aligns more closely with community well-being and priorities has led to contemplation about leaving the Western provinces. The difficulty lies in reconciling the love for family with the need for a community that resonates with our ideals and aspirations. Bit of a sobering reminder there, Chris, and I don't think you're alone in feeling that way. We've heard a lot of people talk about why they choose to live in Saskatchewan, but I think that is an example. We've heard from people who say politics has made them question where they belong in this province. And that's been especially true for some members of the queer community. Allison writes, I love this land and my family to my soul, but I no longer feel welcome, wanted, or safe here. And this is the first time I've ever said that in 40 years. I could write a book on this place and why I have loved it, but I do not want to be here anymore, and it breaks my heart. Others, though, have doubled down on their work and are trying to build a safe, inclusive space for young members of the LGBTQ plus community in Saskatchewan. Karma Kay is a rising star in the drag scene in Saskatoon. She was born and raised in Saskatchewan, but even when her family left, she's chosen to stay. Karma, hello.
Hi, how are we doing?
I'm well, thanks. There's a lot to talk about here. I want to learn just a little bit more about you first. So let's talk about your life in drag. How did you get involved with it in the first place? What drew you into it?
Honestly, it was a really weird start. So I was about 18 years old, just going on 19, and I had literally just moved to Saskatoon from Kindersley. So small town into big city. So I was like super excited. I got involved in a glee club at the university. I didn't even go to that university, but thank God my roommate did. I'm like, and I met someone who happened to run the USSU Pride Center, and they heard a whisper of a wind that I thought drag was cool because I was a makeup artist. And they were like, somebody dropped out. Do you want to try drag? And I'm like all I knew was makeup. Like I didn't have wigs. I didn't even own a bra. Like I was like, oh, okay. Borrowed some things. I styled up my natural hair and I sang live because I've always been able to do that, not necessarily dance.
And you've been hooked ever since, right? What kind of a scene is there here in Saskatchewan? Drag scene.
It is a growing but surprisingly large drag scene for like a lot of people like who aren't involved in the queer community, for example. Even some who are don't even know there's a drag scene, but it's huge now. When I started, I think there was about 4 or 5 performers or who were solid and on like show rotations, and shows only happen like once every month or 2 months, maybe even like a few a year. And I've been doing drag for about 4.5, 5 years here in Saskatoon. And from that time, I can now say there are about at least probably like 67 performers.
I know I've heard that you're pretty good. And do you get the question a lot? Like, why haven't you moved to a bigger place? Like, why don't you move to Toronto?
Honestly, for me, there's a lot of things come into mind. First things being first is Toronto is incredibly expensive. Like I did 2 small shows out there in September of last year, and even trying to take a cab to one of my bookings was $40 alone. And that's from a hotel, and those are pretty central, most of them. So I was like, oh yeah, that's not gonna. I can't afford a cab. How are groceries gonna look? Let's just keep it real.
What about though the feeling of acceptance? Because I shared that note that Allison shared with us about sometimes not feeling safe, and we've heard from other members of the queer community in Saskatchewan who have expressed that they no longer feel safe or welcome here, and I'm wondering, your feelings on that, because you have stayed. You sure, the cost of living might make sense to take a cab in Toronto, but you've chosen here. So how have your feelings at all changed about your own safety and the fact that you are a highly visible trans woman in Saskatchewan?
Yeah, so I also work at probably I work in Midtown Plaza. I'll disclose that. I don't care. Come see me, get your makeup done. I work at MAC Cosmetics in Midtown. But so I'm pretty central no matter what I'm doing, even when I'm out of drag as a woman day to day. And I won't lie, Saskatchewan, while I love it for so many things, has been a little scary for queer people, nonetheless visible queer people like trans people. I just the other day I walked out to hear a preacher on the corner screeching about all kinds of propaganda and crap about queer people, and it was alarming because it was like I'm just leaving my work. I'm trying to walk home, and I feel targeted by somebody I don't even know. And there were people gathered around him, and I'm like, how many more people do I know or don't know who could just come up to me and, like it's very unsettling, like to think about even walking home, even if it's just like a few blocks or it's a small cab away. Um, and I know a lot of people who do feel the same, especially with the rising issues with legal debate surrounding schools and trans youth.
What's it like when you leave the city? It's a pretty unsettling example of leaving the mall in downtown Saskatoon, but I know that you've taken your show on the road, you've toured rural Saskatchewan, and so what has that been like?
Honestly, I will say overall an incredibly positive experience. For me, there is nothing more that I love about my art than sharing it with other people. I feel like the best thing for queer youth or even just youth in general is seeing people that could be like them, people they relate to. Even if they're not queer, they don't end up queer, you know what I mean? They're seeing the possibilities that the world holds that they might not see from a small community. Sharing, like, and for kids, like, drag queens are no different from a Disney princess at Disneyland. We're covered in rhinestones and wigs and sparkly things, and they're just like, wow, what are you? Like, like they just want to hug. They want to talk to us. And I love sharing that with community. And when people have questions, I'm always an open book. There's just nothing more positive than sharing your love with strangers, as weird as that sounds. Like, and seeing their face light up to see the many things that exist in this world that they might not have seen outside of their community.
Well, and what about a younger you in Kindersley? Do you think about that
Oh,
too?
all the time, constantly. I remember what it was like growing up in Kindersley, and while I may not have had it as hard as some people I know, I will say that had I even seen one drag queen while I was, I'd say, like the age of even 13, it would have changed my life astronomically. Just to see, like, I could do that. That as someone who loved like just like makeup and feminine things at the time, being a boy, um, in a small, very like country southern area, right? Because Kindersley's a bit of an oil town, right? So like it would have just been like, wow, I love all that. And I wouldn't have gotten to see that unless I was digging through YouTube or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Karma, don't go anywhere. I want to share a few more stories from people who've been in touch with us, and I want to remind people how they can call. So 1-800-716-2221 to share with us why you live here. You can also email bluesky@cbc.ca. We got this note from one of our listeners.
Hi, my name is Fatima Kavadia and I live in Saskatoon. I live here because in this beautiful land of the living skies, I've met some of the most generous, kind, courageous, compassionate, strong, and resilient individuals I get to call my neighbors and friends, who show me every day that together we can be stronger.
That's a voice note from Fatima. Now, Karma, do you have a network of people like that where you feel that strength of community?
Absolutely, I do. Not only the drag community, but a lot of my closest friends in the queer community. I feel like even if we have our differences as people and individuals, there is not a single person in our community who wouldn't stand up for another person if they saw they needed help. We are resilient, strong people who have faced years and years of garbage. So we know what it's like to be put down for any reason. So we'll stand up for our people.
I understand you wanted to give a shout out to some of your friends who have also chosen to make Saskatoon home. Do you want to tell us about some of them?
Yes, actually. So one of my really good friends, her name is Emmy. She is a beautiful, gorgeous, may I say, woman from Mexico originally, and she has come to Saskatoon and is probably one of the biggest voices I know for women's rights and like women's speech up against like sexual assaults and whatnot. So she has made like a really big community for herself and women in her position who have been through what she's been through. And I think that's so inspiring. And she has made such a a good group of people surrounding her, and I'm just so proud of her.
What do you love most about your life in Saskatoon, Karma?
Absolutely community and accessibility. If it doesn't matter what part of the city I'm living in Saskatoon, I have I have groceries either just down the street or around the block. I have a convenience store. I have heck, if I even wanted to get my nails done or go to a Shoppers Drug Mart, we've got countless all over the city, right? Like everything's so accessible and ready for you. I could walk down the block right now and go get myself a jug of milk. And I think that it's not a lot. That
Yeah,
is something
that's
not
like
a lot
great.
of cities have.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. And community, absolutely. This is like out of everywhere I've lived, more than just Kindersley, because I was originally born in Kingston, out in Ontario. Um, but like we've lived in like Brockville, we lived in Smiths Falls and all that. But like this is one of the most tightly woven communities. It does like if you know somebody, they probably know somebody else you know, not just because that like I don't know small pond, but everybody is so welcoming. They get to know each other. You can run into a stranger at Colonel's, like at the popcorn store, and have a whole conversation about your life, and nobody's going to look at you weird. It's just people are not afraid to be human.
Yeah, it's the people, and I do think for a lot of folks, it's the proximity to nature too. So I want to share an email that Carol sent to us. Carol writes, "We are so fortunate to live here. I call where I live the middle of nowhere, just north of Kamsack, 10 minutes from Duck Mountain Provincial Park. Until you've really spent time on the prairie in person, up close and personal, you'll never understand the appeal." Also got an email from Fran who writes, "I was born and raised in Regina and have deep family ties there. I moved to Edmonton for 4 years to follow my husband's job opportunity. We returned to Saskatchewan to be closer to aging parents. Great decision. You have to have balance between building your own life while respecting your roots. You're part of a family that can't be replaced, and you can impact any community you land in." And I'll share one more here from Jennifer, who writes, "I live in Saskatoon in my third home in the Broadway district, having moved here in 1981. I think Jennifer could grab some chocolate milk pretty easily living in the Broadway district. So Jennifer goes on to say, "Why do I live here and in Saskatchewan? Connie Calder says it best. I get caught by those wide open spaces, the straight horizon lines, where the skies are bigger than anywhere else. I lived in Vancouver for my first 8 years in Canada, and returning to visit, I realize I definitely don't miss those dark forests, overwhelming mountains, and the gray winter weather. Driving to see grandkids in Calgary, I'm never bored looking over the wide open places, and the friends and connections I have made keep me here." And so you can do what Jennifer did. You can email us, bluesky@cbc.ca, and there's a couple minutes to still call in, 1-800-716-2221. The other way we'd love to hear your voices is to send us a voice note, and we'll play it in the days ahead. So just use that voice note app on your phone and email it to bluesky@cbc.ca. Karma, I do want to ask you, you've touched on it a bit, but you've got a lot of people listening right now. And so what message do you have, especially for younger queer kids who might be, questioning or just trying to figure out their place in this province? What's your message to them?
I would say that just know wherever you are, whatever situation you may find yourself in, there is community for you. There are people who love and care about you, and there are people your community will find you. Nothing is wrong with you. You are a human being. Your emotions are valid, and don't be afraid of being authentic. And if you can't now, there will be an opportunity for you.
Karma, it's been so good talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is Karma Kay, a drag performer in Saskatoon. Now, why do you live here? You can share 1-800-716-2221. Email bluesky@cbc.ca or send us a voice note like this.
Aglanat. My name is Tansy and I live in Saskatchewan because it is rich with Indigenous history and cultural revitalization.
There's a great reason to stay in Saskatchewan. That was Tansy, who is originally from La Loche, who now calls Saskatoon home. Again, bluesky@cbc.ca or call 1-800-716-2221.
Hello, I'm Claire Miller. I grew up in rural Saskatchewan, just on the north side of Red Deer Hill, south of Prince Albert. I've had the opportunity to live in Thunder Bay, Cairo, Egypt, Toronto, Bavaria, Germany, Grand Prairie, even Yellowknife for a couple months. You know what? I landed back here in Saskatchewan. I think it's because I was raised in community and I want to raise my own son in community. I also think I really appreciate visiting the special nature places of my childhood, like the wetlands and the boreal forest, and it means a lot to me to be able to visit them from time to time and to be able to take my own son to these special places. I also live in Saskatchewan because the frequency of this place just feels right.
Hi, my name is Mike Samigao. I live in Saskatoon. Why do I live here? We have thousands of lakes and many parks and campgrounds. We take our children fishing, on hikes, and love to watch the stars under long summer nights.
My name is Julie Yu. I live in Saskatoon. Why do I live here? The simple answer is that it's home. There's something pretty special about this province, and for me, it has always come down to the people and the sense of community. My parents immigrated from a village in China right to Regina, Saskatchewan. I grew up there and moved away and came back to this province because it's a place where I want my daughter to grow up. It's also a place where people always ask how they can help. I see it all the time, whether it's dropping off food when you are sick, being taken out for coffee when you're feeling down, or getting a message that your favorite seasonal ice cream flavor is back. People show kindness in so many different ways here. People care to get to know you and to share a part of themselves with you. Whether I'm having dim sum with my elders or I'm at a local event, I see the power of community. It feels pretty special to find a place to call home, and this is why I live here.
Well, we're almost out of time for today, but if that sparked a story of your own that you want to share with us, tell us why you live here, you can now call Talkback 1-800-661-7540 or email bluesky@cbc.ca. Now, tomorrow we're asking, is it time to move away from single-family homes? There is this push for more density in Canadian cities, and that means sometimes putting 2 or 3 homes on a lot that used to only have one family. The federal government is willing to give millions of dollars to cities willing to make these kinds of zoning changes, and a lot of people are in favor of densification as long as it happens in someone else's neighborhood. So we want to hear from you on that. So be sure to tune in tomorrow between 12 and 1 here on CBC Radio 1, 102.5 FM in Regina, 94.1 FM in Saskatoon, 540 on the AM dial. I'm Leisha Grabinski. Now here's a show that captures the essence of what we tried to do today, talking about why we live here in Saskatchewan. I'm going to say why I love living here in Saskatchewan. So here's Prairie Girl by Aaron Passmore from Rah Rah.